New York Giants left tackle Andrew Thomas spoke to the media today. And amongst the things he said was something that's starting to catch a little fire. It's something that I've been saying for a while. I think this offensive line is tired of being blamed for things that they have no control over. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I have a giant issue. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of A Giant Issue. I am Coach Gene Clemons, New York Giants on SI. That is where you find all of your New York Giants news and information. Make sure you go there first. Make sure that's the first place, the only place that you're going for your New York Giants news and information. And make sure that you're tuning in to the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel. Yes, right here. Make sure you subscribe. We're still trying. We got less than 48 hours until the first game of the year. So we still have time. If we just wanted to get on a rush, right? If 400 of you or 300 of you just wanted to come and subscribe right now, do it. I greatly appreciate it. So I was coming on today to really talk about the game and give you my thoughts as we get ready for the first game of the season, like keys to victory and matchups that I'll be watching. But I think I'll just save that for tomorrow. So I'll be back with you on Saturday to kind of give you what I'm feeling on that. But this to me was really, really interesting because we don't hear a whole lot from a guy like Andrew Thomas. We don't hear a lot from him because I think that Andrew Thomas knows that the mantra of the offensive line is to be seen, not heard, right? Right. So I think Andrew Thomas understands that what's going on out here in these world, he has had to sit back and listen to like all of these people talk and blame and say, oh, the offensive line was trash. The offensive line was horrible. The offensive line was subpar, right? And I'm keeping it light, but I wanted to read to you what Andrew Thomas said, and I'm getting this from the Giant Insider podcast and newspapers. Shout out to the Giant Insider, who had this quote where I found it on X at Giant Insider. I want to give attribution to them. I'm pretty sure you can find it on New York Giants on that side, but this is where I'm reading it at right now. Thomas says, our mentality this year is to be dominant, be consistent, and be the catalyst for the offense, not to be the scapegoat when things go wrong. See, here's what he's talking about, right? For the last few years, the offensive line has been blamed anytime something was bad. But anytime something was good, other people received the credit. Remember, that 2022 team had pretty much a lot of the same dudes on it at the offensive line as 2023. You want to know the difference in 2023? Offensive linemen got hurt, right? Namely, Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas was hurt. He was out for a myriad of games. Evan Neal got hurt. He missed a bunch of games. The rookie Schmidt missed games. The guards missed games. At one point in time, with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, they had an entire offensive line made up of people who were not on the roster when the season started, right? So when people say, oh, the offensive line sucked, yeah, that offensive line sucked. But I want you to keep in mind this, and whether you want to admit it or not, it's fine with me. Like we disagree all the time. It's cool, right? This New York Giants team last year played winning football behind an offensive line that was supposedly really, really bad. And they played winning football with the backup and the third string quarterback. But they couldn't seem to tie their shoes and get plays to go consistently with the first team quarterback. because I don't necessarily think this was a shot at Daniel Jones, because Daniel Jones doesn't get the opportunity to decide who gets the credit and who gets the blame, right? So this wasn't Andrew Thomas taking a shot at Daniel Jones, because that's what people will they'll try to shape it as that, right? Oh, Andrew Thomas is out here trying to throw his quarterback under the bus. Now it's going to give people a reason to not like Andrew Thomas. And guess what Andrew Thomas is not going to do? He's not going to care, because he's one of the best left tackles in the game. You can't do Andrew Thomas like you did Evan Neal, because Andrew Thomas has a track record of fantastic play. And if anybody has the right to speak up on the behalf of the offensive line, it's Andrew Thomas. And I don't think he was taking shots at Daniel Jones. I actually think he was taking shots at us, members of the media, content creators, narrative curators, right? People who are trying to get engagement. Because the narrative from a lot of people who do what I do, who write, who analyze, a lot of it is just to, in a vacuum, blame the offensive line. It's all the offensive line's fault. See, I'm going to tell you the two scapegoats that we've seen in the Daniel Jones era. And again, this isn't Daniel Jones' fault, because he's not spewing any of this stuff. The first one is Daniel Jones has never had a number one wide receiver. Daniel Jones has never had elite level weaponry to throw to. That's the first scapegoat. Except all around the league, everywhere around the league, we see quarterbacks without elite level weaponry succeeding. Right? Lamar Jackson, the guy who people like to try to compare Daniel Jones to all the time, has never had elite level weaponry and has always been good, has multiple MVPs. How does that happen? How is one able to become an MVP without a Justin Jefferson or a Chase, a Jamar Chase, or a Tyreek Hill? Hey, guess what? Patrick Mahomes had Tyreek Hill at one point in time to go with a prime Travis Kelce. And then they didn't want to pay Tyreek Hill $150 million. So they let him go. And they just have been rolling out random wide receivers since. What first round number one wide receiver has he had in this time? Well, you know, he had Travis Kelce. He's like the number one receiver. Okay, cool. You know what the Giants had? They had an Evan Ingram, who in Jacksonville is kind of like the number one receiver. They had an Evan Ingram, they had a Slayton, right? As just along with a prime Saquon Barkley when healthy. I get it. He had weapons, but that was the narrative. Hey, he ain't got no weapons. He ain't got no number one. We got to get him a number one, and then it'll finally unlock his potential. And then the second scapegoat was the offensive line is bad. Except in 2022, that same offensive line, healthy for the most part, except for Evan Neal, who missed a good amount of games that year. Except for him, healthy and able to lead or to block this team into the playoffs. Nobody talks about that. And then the next year, the continuity should have been there, right? The continuity should have been there the next year. Except people got hurt. And once people got hurt, the offensive line went down. Guess what happens to everybody's offensive line when people get hurt? They get worse. Remember, Kansas City had 2 offensive linemen, 2 tackles get hurt right before the Super Bowl, and they lost to Tampa Bay. If those tackles don't get hurt, Tampa Bay does not beat Kansas City. Tom Brady got gifted a championship. They should have lost, and full disclosure, I'm a Tampa Bay guy, right? I grew up in Tampa Bay. I grew up a Bucs fan. But Tom Brady got gifted one because, right, when he got to the Super Bowl, he got to see Patrick Mahomes with no tackles, with a week to prepare, with no tackles. And it looked like it was supposed to look. Like some backups are out there trying to play against some starters. This happens everywhere. But it's not lost on me that last year, under really, really difficult circumstances, right, to come into the game, Tyrod Taylor and, to a certain extent, Tommy DeVito were able to play winning football behind an offensive line of guys who were off the street or backups. How is it? If the line was so bad, if they were so god-awful that you couldn't operate behind them, then why did all of a sudden Darius Slayton become a viable fantasy option, right? Why did Darius Slayton all of a sudden become a guy you could think about starting in fantasy when Tyrod Taylor took over? Why is it that all of a sudden he was a deep threat catching bombs when Tyrod Taylor took over? So if I'm Andrew Thomas, I'm saying, hey, listen, when things go wrong, right, don't just immediately start blaming us. Don't just immediately start blaming us, because there are two people responsible for sacks. Excuse me, there's two entities that are responsible for a sack. It is the protection and it is the person being protected. The protection, their job, depending upon what the play is, might be, hey, we need that much time, or hey, we need that much time. So if I give you that much time and the ball is supposed to be gone, but you're still holding the ball, then guess what? That's on you. Now, if I'm supposed to give you that much time, right? If I'm supposed to give you 1,001, 1,002, 1,003 time, and you've got somebody in your face after that first 1,001, that's on me. And I guarantee you, if people were to start going back and looking at film, not just to assess the blame on who they think is responsible for it, but to just analyze it truly and effectively, because a lot of people are out here looking at film that just don't know what they're looking at. We can keep it a full buck. Right now, there are people who do Giants analysis and film breakdowns who do not understand the game at the level that they're trying to explain to you that they understand the game. They don't know what a coverage is. They don't understand the reasoning behind what somebody's doing. They don't understand run fits. There's some that do, right? There's some that have an understanding of it. But there are a lot of people out here just posting pics or posting video. Everybody having the all 22 has made everybody an expert, except if you don't know how to watch the all 22, then you don't know what you're looking at. This is why coaches can't watch the football game like regular fans. We're too busy analyzing stuff. Am I trying to say that I'm better than everyone else? No. Am I trying to say that I'm better than some when it comes to evaluating this film? I'm better than most of the people in this space when it comes to evaluating this film. Because while some people picked it up as a hobby, right, 3-4 years ago when it became in vogue for people to start breaking down film and analyzing it, I've been doing this ever since I was a kid. There's been no breaks. From the moment that I was a kid, I've been involved with football and writing about football and talking about football. I was a football player, and a journalism major in college. I've been doing sports journalism ever since I left. Actually, before I left, I was doing string work all around the country, everywhere that I lived. I've been doing analyst work for years. When I tell you, hey, this offensive line was not as bad as you guys are making them out to be, I've got a basis, right? When you go to a mechanic, you don't listen to the dude on the side that just talks about mechanics to figure out what's wrong with your car. If the mechanic says, hey, it's the brake line, you don't go to the guy that just writes about the mechanics who do the work. You just believe the mechanic, right? So when Andrew Thomas is telling you, hey, we're not trying to be the scapegoat this year. He's telling you, we're tired of you guys blaming us for stuff that may not have anything to do with us. We'll take the blame for the things that we're supposed to take the blame for, and we'll be quiet because we're the offensive line. But if you're going to give respect and you're going to give props and you're going to give kudos to the quarterback when we win games, if you're going to give respect and kudos to the running back when we win games, to the defense when we win games, make sure that you lob some of that the way of the offensive line, because if they were that bad, you'd never win a game. Like truly bad offensive lines never win games. Never. All of those games that people were like, oh, we shouldn't be winning these games, we should be tanking, right? Because that's what they were on last year, and now they're talking about, oh, the offensive line was so bad we couldn't win games. You didn't even want to win games. You didn't want to win games last year. Once everybody got hurt and it was looking like there was no chance to make the playoffs, even though the playoffs didn't really truly leave the opportunity to make it until deep into the season, because the Giants kept fighting. And that's what I love about what they did last year. They kept fighting. They kept trying. They kept trying to put their best foot forward to try to win a game. How can you be mad at that? So I watched it. I watched it unfold. And I saw that offensive line fighting. And Andrew Thomas is here to tell you, bro, like, find somebody else to blame. Stop using the same old mantras. He went on to say, by the way, I'm very confident in the group we have, but honestly, we won't know until we get on the field. Anybody can play when they're up 20 and everything's going right. But once adversity hits, once we hit pressure and there's a sack or a bad play, how do we bounce back from it? I think that's what makes the great lines. That's what we'll try to exemplify. Right? Now, a lot of people are killing him because he said when things go wrong. Guess what? In a football game, things go wrong all the time. There's never a time in a football game where things don't go wrong. I don't understand why you guys are trying to kill these experts when they're trying to tell you the truth, right? You say you want the truth, and then somebody comes out and gives you the truth, and then you go, I ain't really want that truth. Well, make up your mind. What do you want? Do you want the truth, or do you just want some rando version of the truth that you can hold on to? Make up your mind. Make it plain. Let us understand. Because right now, all I hear is people saying, oh, that's a bad look. Andrew Thomas already talking about, when things go wrong. Yeah, because if you're averaging 60, 70, 80 plays a game, you're going to mess up on some of them, because that team over on the other side, they have professionals too. They have guys who get paid to do this as well. And so it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be great. There's going to be times where they beat you. This is the point of the Evan Neal situation for me. Everybody always concentrated on the times that he got beat. But when you look at the statistics, he's given up a sack. Not even a sack a game. Right? He gave up a sack. Some of the sacks not on him. If I am trying to push this speed rusher around the outside and you are continuing to just back up and not step up into the pocket, then what do you want me to do? You want me to stone him? You want me to just be able to go, boom, you're not going anywhere? That's unrealistic for anybody to do every time. Hey, Andrew Thomas doesn't do that. Andrew Thomas doesn't stone people every single play. So if Andrew Thomas, Pro Bowler, right, all pro, if he doesn't do it every single play, why would you think a second-year rookie who spent half of his rookie year hurt and the other half of his second year hurt, why would you expect him to do it? But I digress, because now he's a backup, right, for this year. And I do think when you see him again on the field, he'll be improved because he's getting a chance to really perfect and hone his craft. But there's going to be times where Jermaine Illuminor gets beat. And when he gets beat, it can't be, oh my gosh, look, it's the same old, same old. We're back here again. No, it has to be, hey, they get beat sometimes. He'll get it right. He'll get back to work. You want to know what I saw yesterday when I was watching the Kansas City Baltimore Ravens game? I saw offensive lines who were not perfect. And I saw quarterbacks bailing them out left and right. I saw quarterbacks getting busy. Patrick Mahomes was dead to rights. He just took off to his right. He was getting pressure from his right. He took off to the right, which is what you're supposed to do, by the way. When the pressure's coming at you, you're not supposed to run away from the pressure. You're supposed to run into the pressure so that they have to change, like they have to stop their body and go opposite direction to get you, right? So he goes the other way. He's getting pressured from the right. He goes right, flicks the ball over to Travis Kelce for a wide open catch. They keep the thing going. I saw Lamar Jackson come back, see himself getting pressure from the outside, dip underneath, take off, run, get 11, 12 yards, get down, keep the chains moving. I saw those dudes do that all night. I saw them giving their people a chance all night. All night. So I'm looking at it, right? I'm looking at it and I'm saying, well, why can't Daniel Jones do this? And when I look back at 2022, guess what Daniel Jones was doing? He was doing just that. Maybe not the roll to the right and then fling it. He wasn't doing that all the time. But when he didn't see it, he was taking off, getting his yards, keeping himself relatively safe. That's what he's supposed to do. Guess what I saw last year when Tyrod Taylor get in? He was getting back when he was getting the ball away faster so that the offensive line doesn't have to block as long, right? He was anticipating throws. He was taking off when people gave him obvious rush lanes to pick up first downs and keep the chains moving. That's what I saw. And in my brain, I'm going, that's what Daniel Jones should be doing. But then I remembered that's what he did. So Daniel Jones has the capabilities physically of being the type of guy who makes an offensive line better. So what's holding him back? To the people who are listening, I'm pointing at my head right now because it's not a heart thing. We know he's got heart. We know he's tough. Almost foolishly tough, right? But he's got heart. So if it's not the heart, it's the head. And if he can get his head on straight, ladies and gentlemen, he can have success. And maybe, just maybe, we can stop blaming the offensive line if he doesn't. If this just doesn't work. Maybe it's not the O-line. Because again, last year, with the backup and the third stringer, they were playing winning football. Just think about that. I like the fact that Andrew Thomas said something. I like that it wasn't one of the other linemen. I like that it was the guy who is the captain, the guy who is looked at as a leader on this team, a guy whose performance is unquestioned, right? You can't question his performance. I like that. Now let's see what happens. Now let's see what happens on Sunday. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. New York Giants on SI. That's where you're going to get all your Giants news and information. Make sure you catch everything that I do over there, everything I'm writing about, my film analysis breakdown. We're getting into week 1, which means we'll be doing more and more and more stuff. Also, make sure you go over to the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel, which is probably where you're watching this right now. And if you're not, if you're listening, right, on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify or wherever you get your podcast from, make sure that you go over to the New York Giants on SI YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. Go over to Coach Gene Clemons, hit that subscribe button. There will be some Giants content that I am going to be releasing only on that channel. Only on that channel. You're not going to want to miss it. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, y'all stay good. I'm Coach Gene Clemons, and I've got a Giant issue.